Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. Andrew Musgrave at St James's Park following Newcastle United's 4-3 victory over Nottingham Forest. Very much a Jekyll and Hyde performance from Newcastle United, but I think given the result and performance at Manchester City, given the week that Newcastle United are going into with a visit to Anfield on Wednesday and the month up ahead as well, of course, peaking with that cup final fixture against Liverpool at Wembley. Today, for me, was all about winning, and you get that momentum started. There were positives, there were negatives, but I think the important thing was to come away with all 3 points. And certainly so when you look at the table as well. Aston Villa's victory over Chelsea meant they went a point ahead of Newcastle United before Newcastle kicked off today. A win for Forest would have taken them up to 49 points, and that is a big gap for Newcastle United to make up. As it is, Newcastle United up to 5th. All eyes now on Liverpool versus Man City, which has just kicked off. Liverpool win that by 8. Newcastle would go up to 4th. It's not going to happen, but I think the important thing is that Newcastle United picked up all 3 points and got back into the conversation for that 4th spot. The first half, Newcastle went behind really against the run of play, and even though they scored 4 goals in the first half, I don't think it was as polished as maybe the scoreline suggested. There were a lot of stray passes, there were a lot of bad decision making, and really when Forest went and got the goal, which came from a Newcastle United mistake, that kind of woke them up. That was really important, and that seemed to be the wake-up call and sparked them into life. Someone's just driven past me with the noisiest exhaust possible. I'm not even sure what kind of car it is, but goodness me, that is shaking the foundations here of the multi-story. But yeah, Newcastle United were probably in control of the game, and then all of a sudden Jacob Murphy gives the ball away, and Hudson-Odoi, who was a doubt for this game, runs on and fires it in the back of the net. I haven't seen it again. I'd like to see Nick Pope's positioning. He looked way over to the other side of the goal. Maybe he wasn't expecting the shot from distance. Didn't look great from that point of view, but the ball comes from Murphy giving it away. He wasn't very happy with Toon Livramento, which seemed a little bit strange because it was Murphy's mistake. And anyway, Forest get the goal, and then it was all about how Newcastle United reacted, and they got the equaliser through Lewis Miley, who got the nod today. Sandro Tonali on the bench. Lots of rumours over the weekend that he was going to be missing altogether through injury. He actually came on midway through the second half, but big day for Lewis Miley. A lot of people have been calling for him to start, and I thought he started a little bit nervously. I thought a few, again, bad touches, stray passes, but then he gets the goal, and I thought as the game went on, he actually looked really good. And this wasn't just a case of him filling in for Sandro Tonali. I think this was a case of really staking his claim to be one of those midfield 3. I thought Joe Willock did okay, because it felt to me like a big afternoon for him, because I think everybody probably realised that had Sandro Tonali been fit, it would likely to have been Tonali, Bruno, Miley in the middle, as it was Tonali deemed not fit enough. And Willock gets that starting place, and he did all right. The Joe Willock showed bursts of energy, certainly an improvement on what we saw against Manchester City. He's got to keep making sure that when he gets his opportunities, he takes them, because if everyone's fit, where's he in the pecking order? He's certainly not in the top 4, maybe not even the top 5. So I thought he had a decent afternoon. Nothing to write home about too much, but certainly not a bad performance. But yes, Lewis Miley gets the equaliser. Great touch and finish into the corner. Then Jacob Murphy, who had an absolute stinker of an opening half an hour, and given the ball away for the goal, everything he tried to do just did not come off whatsoever. There was maybe one brilliant move where he sets Livramento down the right, and Livramento blasts the ball across the box. But other than that, I thought Murphy had a particularly bad opening start to that game, and then he gets the second goal, chests it in from a Lewis Hall kind of deflected cross kind of shot, and it falls down to Jacob Murphy, who chests it in to get another goal this season. That gives Newcastle United the second goal. Then there's a penalty from Alexander Isak. Not the greatest of penalties, it has to be said. More on that in a moment. It goes to VAR, handball. Definitely a penalty. Takes a long while for the referee to get called over to the monitor, and then even longer for the referee to make his decision, but he made the right decision. And then Isak's penalty, it was a bit of a bizarre one, a bit of a stuttered run up, and really if Matt Sells, former Newcastle United goalkeeper, has a stronger hand, I'm not sure that goes in. He gets a full hand to it, but it just ends up in the back of the net, straight down the middle. It's a high penalty. It's not a good penalty at all, but when you looks in, and it's in the back of the net. And then Alexander Isak gets a second just a moment later, takes the deflection, bobbles up over the keeper. But it was a good move, down the left, picks on the pass, turns inside, and he shoots it goal, and the defender turns it in. And really, Newcastle United, once they got the equaliser, they were clinical. They were a bit like a hurricane. They blew Nottingham Forest away. It was a really, really solid performance. And then the half-time whistle goes, 7 minutes of added time, and you were hoping Newcastle maybe could add a fifth. And I think the concern going into half-time was what happens in the second half. How can you maintain the level of performance? Because Newcastle United really was solid coming into the half-time whistle, really were. And it was about how you maintain that level of performance going into the second 45, which isn't easy at all. So yeah, that was my concern at half-time. How did Newcastle United keep that level of performance up in the second half? And as it was, Newcastle United really took their foot off the accelerator and then conceded another 2 goals. And it was a nervous end to the game, and I was so grateful to hear that final whistle, because it was really backs against the wall. In Newcastle United's defence, because they did sit off, they did lose a bit of that intensity, and it wasn't a great watch from them. But I do imagine it is really quite difficult to, not quite get the message across, because I imagine if you get the message across, you say the right things, but it's to put that into practice. You've already given up loads of energy to get yourself 4-1 up. You're still playing a very quick and threatening team. But obviously it's a mindset thing. You feel like maybe you don't want to dive into challenges as much as you did in the first half, because the job has been done. That's just a football thing. I'm sure Eddie Howe did try and get the message across in the half-time team talk. Don't step off too much. Still a dangerous sign. And at the end, Newcastle United were punished, but thankfully not punished too much. And look, it didn't really make the changes. I thought he'd make some changes at half-time. I think everyone thought he might just take some of the stars off to rest them ahead of that game against Liverpool. Maybe Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon. As it was, the subs came quite late into the second half. But they did, Tonali came on and showed you why he's just probably Newcastle United's best player. I know everyone says Alexander Isak, but for me, Tonali is just absolutely brilliant. He really, again, just inserted himself into that midfield, real presence, such legs on him, and you can see why he's Newcastle United's best player for me. You saw Harvey Barnes come on, didn't do too much, but again, the game wasn't really suited to him because Forest were having a lot of the ball and they were trying to attack. That's not where Harvey Barnes is best. Harvey Barnes is best when Newcastle move on the transition. 1 or 2 openings for him, but I felt the second half for Newcastle United was particularly poor, and I think they maybe thought the job was done, and they were fortunate that there was only probably 3 minutes of stoppage time and not the 7 or so in the first half. But when they did have the ball and they had the chance to attack, there was a lot of poor decision making, a lot of stray passes, wrong passes. Callum Wilson ended up coming on for Alexander Isak for the last 5 minutes, and there was 2 separate opportunities for him to pass to his teammates who were in a better attacking position, and he's just tried to go on himself, which was very, 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 very poor. And that's kind of the things that could end up costing you games. Thankfully it didn't, but he wasn't the only one. And I think throughout the second half, Newcastle were very guilty of being careless in possession, trying to play out from the back maybe when it wasn't the right time to do so, but giving the ball to the opposition, who, as we said, they are very, very good. They are up there for a reason. Yes, maybe the form in the last few games has dropped off slightly, but don't underestimate Nottingham Forest. Got some players that would be right at home in this Newcastle United squad, and Newcastle United were really playing into the hands with some of the decision making when it came to the passes, especially round the back, and putting each other under needless pressure. There was an incident between Nick Pope and Dan Burn where Nick Pope gets the ball and gives it straight to Dan Burn over a short distance. Dan Burn's got to control that and try and play it out, and he gets caught, and he's lucky that nothing came of it. But it was things like that, and you just think, you shouldn't be doing that, and you can't be doing that against Liverpool on Wednesday, because they will punish you. They are a better side than Nottingham Forest. But look, this happens in games. You're going to have moments like this. The important thing was that Newcastle United got the job done in the first half. They give themselves that buffer, and the win was all that matters. Eddie Howe, I think, will go into this week and make it clear that there were elements of that performance, particularly in the second half, which are not acceptable, which against the best side in Europe at the moment, i.e. Liverpool, you will be punished. And he'll try and get that message home that things have got to improve. But look, getting that win, setting that foundation to build on going into the next few weeks with Brighton and whatever comes between then and the Carabao Cup final. Really important that they got this win, because he didn't want to go to Anfield on the back of another defeat. You go down to Anfield now with a bit of confidence. And hey, look, by the time you watch this, they might have lost to Liverpool and be wounded themselves. They've not been brilliant in the last couple of games of Liverpool. So I think Newcastle United can go down to Anfield full of confidence, full of high spirits, and know that if they just play to the level they can do, play at the level that they did here against Arsenal in the semi-final, against Liverpool earlier in the season, then they can go down to Anfield and give themselves a real chance of picking something up. And it's more than just about 3 points. It's about setting the tone for that Carabao Cup final, because you don't want to go down to Anfield and lose badly and have a bad performance, because as much as you will try not to, you will be thinking about that heading into that final in a few weeks' time. So go down there, do yourselves proud, and give Liverpool a game. You know, they're not unbeatable. And I think winning a game like today against Nottingham Forest, where you weren't brilliant, but coming out in the manner that they did, getting all 3 points is really, really crucial. Getting 3 points against a rival who's competing for the top four, really, really crucial. Getting back in amongst the top four as well, really, really key. And there's a lot to build on. There's a lot to fix, but there's a lot to build on, lots of positives. There really, really were. Alexander Isak, again, 2 goals. Brilliant from him. Gordon showed flashes. Bruno, I thought, was probably the one before Newcastle United got the equaliser who was probably the best performer for me. He was wanting the ball, he was trying to make things happen. The rest of the midfield, maybe Lewis Miley's side, were a bit static. The wingers weren't really moving. It was all a bit stop-start, but Bruno was trying. He was really trying. I thought he had a really good performance in the absence of Sandro Tonali. Nick Pope back in goal. Didn't have all that much to do. Obviously, he's conceded 3 goals, which they weren't brilliant goals to concede, let's be honest. As we said, Murphy gives the ball away for the first, but then the other 2 come from set pieces, and Newcastle United just not clearing the lines, and that's something that's got to be improved on. That's been an issue for the last few weeks, and we've said on the Everything is Black and White podcast that they've got to get back to basics and just defending the lines a little bit better. Does that come down to Nick Pope trying to command the area a bit more? Maybe, but the defence have got to clear the ball. They've got to get rid of it, and they just didn't, and were punished twice by Nottingham Forest. And I do think they were quite fortunate that the whistle went when it did. Not to say that there should have been more stoppage time, but just in terms that there wasn't more stoppage time and Forest could push for that 4th. But yeah, look, as I say, the win is the important thing. Really, really is. And look, the owners were here as well. The chairman was here. He's gone on the pitch there full time. I'm sure he'll be having a chat about the future of this place and whether it remains here or just over the road at Easers Park. But also probably not the worst game for them to be at. You know, you saw Newcastle at their swashbuckling best, clinical, blowed Forest away like a hurricane. But then you also saw Newcastle United at their worst. Bit harsh at me, but you also saw maybe how much that squad is stretched. That's what that second half performance was about. It was about Eddie Howe not really having the players to bring on and maintain the level of performance of the first half. And that's probably good for the chairman to see. You know, you can get emails and texts and phone calls and all that and say, oh, we need this player, we need this player. But what he's seen today is the best of Newcastle United and the worst. And it's probably just a little warning's the wrong word, but it shows you evidence of where this squad needs to be improved. And hopefully in the summer, with Champions League football and a Carabao Cup alongside them, they can do that. But I think really good that the chairman got to see both sides of Newcastle United today. But more importantly, the Newcastle United got the win. I've been Andrew Musgrove. Hit thumbs up, hit subscribe. Look out for the Monday show, which will be live on YouTube, Facebook and X on Monday with me and Aaron Stokes. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, what's left of it. And here's to Newcastle United winning against Nottingham Forest, picking up all 3 points, up to 5th. Brilliant going into that game against Liverpool at Anfield on Wednesday.